Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to sort of combine two issues. One is the cost of living increases, but also the supposed or alleged shortage of workers in the lower paid jobs. Now, there's been quite a few articles running around recently in Australia saying that businesses are having a real struggle getting workers at all, and then particularly keeping them in jobs like pizza delivery or burger flipping, dishwashing, those type of jobs. Now these jobs are typically the lowest paid jobs around, and not only are they lowest paid, but the conditions are poor and the hours are random, and the conditions are worsening all the time to the point where they can call you up say you got to come into work, we're busy here at like the restaurant or pizza place, whatever it is, burger place, and you come in and then they just say, look, actually it's not as busy, you can go home now. And the person's sort of been on standby because if they want the job, they've got to be available at half an hour's notice or less. So they've got to live locally. They've got to kind of exist next to the phone. They can't go out or anything. And then they get an uncertain amount of hours. This week they could get 10 hours. Next week they could get 30 hours, or the week following that, no hours. So these are very uncertain conditions of employment. And so the people, be they recent migrants, illegal or otherwise, people who only take those jobs, they've absolutely no other option. Those sort of jobs are a complete last resort. Now, the hospitality industry generally, restaurants, that sort of thing, their argument is, well, if the business doesn't come in the door, if we don't get the customers, why should we have fixed overhead costs? Excuse me. Why should we have fixed overhead costs when our business is up and down? So we need to be able to adjust our costs, employee costs, because it's quite labour intensive, these sort of businesses. We need to be able to adjust our labour costs at the, turn on a dime, as it were, and reduce those labour costs if our business is slowing down or if it's not as busy as we thought it would be. Now, I do understand that, but if you're in a business that's that marginal, then should you be in business? But for a lot of migrants, the only business, because they're illiterate peasants anyway, the only business they can really go into is this sort of thing, and they borrow money from their the mafia in their genetic diaspora that are very active in Australia, by the way, to buy a franchise or start up a business, and they have to pay that money back with extortion interest no matter what. So they're pretty desperate, some of these people. Nonetheless, coming back to the fundamental issue, the word around, or certainly argued, and I don't doubt it actually, the word in these media articles is that they struggle to hire these people and to hire people to do burger flipping and so on, and then they struggle to keep them. Now, the reason they struggle to keep them is A, there's shit money, and B, there's very uncertain hours and very uncertain conditions. So now, if those uncertain conditions weren't allowed, then they would. A lot of these businesses are so marginal they'd have to close down. So that is maybe a good thing, that there are so many marginal businesses in Australia, particularly in hospitality, and they're only kept alive by labour hire scams, importing peasants, and so on. But if people can get a better gig somewhere or more certain, more reliable employment conditions, they'll leave straight away. And this is what's happening. So what's the answer to this? So what's the solution? Now, these media articles come from business websites, media websites where they purport to care about the poor people and these sorts of things. So what are the solutions? Do they say, well, better conditions and better pay? They sometimes wave better pay around, but it's more, the pay is an issue, but it's more the conditions that day to day you just don't know how many hours of work you're going to get. So, and yet they expect you to be not only on standby, but to turn up for work with 15 minutes notice. That's really the reality of what's out there at the moment. So these people have to exist standing next to the phone. Otherwise, they don't get the work or the hours. But the hours are so uncertain that they just can't live. Now there are some sort of wider exceptions here where you may get 20 Indians or Pakistanis living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And because they all work maybe uncertain hours, but they're prepared to pool their resources, and therefore they can still get by and still exist and still pay the rent, put food on the table. But what's happening now, and I've mentioned this before, is that unscrupulous real estate agents or property owners or both are saying, well, look, if there's 20 of you living here, which is illegal, by the way, if there's 20 of you living here, so I want another 50% on top of the normal rent. So the rent may be, for example, $500 a week. And say, well, you got to pay $750, and this has now become so commonplace that for local white families that want to rent a place, they're now competing with rents that are payable by 20 brown people who are in the apartment or the house paying rent, or a labour hire scam that can, all the rent can be offset against tax. So it's not actually a cost they have to pay from an after-tax income. So there's a lot of scams there that local renters are having to compete with. And this is, of course, driving up the cost of rent. So the cost of living is going up through the roof, while at the same time, working conditions and any sort of certainty about the hours you're going to get. So the argument is the issue to lower mass migration or reduce mass migration, or to stop rental scams, or to stop labour hire scams run by Indians and Chinese. No. That's not the issue. It's the issue to give more reliable hours. Like you got to say to someone, okay, next week I'm going to give you 40 hours or 30 hours or however many, so the person can work around that. These are the hours, days I'm going to need you. And no. Forget about conditions. That's it. So, well, how are we going to help these businesses get workers? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to even further increase mass migration. So we're going to double, triple. We're going to put mass migration. 100 billion people coming in every 5 seconds until there's enough peasant workers to work at these jobs. So that, because it must mean there's a skills shortage. So that the argument, that the overall argument made by these media pieces, particularly the business website, is there's skills of washing a dish, skills of flipping burgers. It's a skill shortage. That's what it is. It's a nuclear physicist shortage. It's a shortage of rocket science. No, they're fucking burger flippers. Anybody can fucking do that. So the painting, dressing it up as a skill shortage is bullshit. What we're talking about here is the costs of living are going out of control on one hand, and on the other side, the jobs at the very bottom end. Not only are they paying shit money, but they're less reliable, less dependable. You can't even budget day to day what your income and your hours of work are going to be. So as a result, people can't work those jobs in anything other than living in a commune or a collective. That is the only way they can work at those sort of jobs. So the subtext of one of these articles was that we should encourage more communal living. We should encourage more situations of 20 Pakistanis living to a 2-bedroom apartment and so on. That if we do that, then the problem is solved. But the ultimate solution to the problem is yet more mass migration. I mean, fuck me. These are the idiots that are opining and commenting and getting star billing, and their editorial is at the top. The comments that I'm making and others that that's buried deep in the bowels of the conversation. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.